Greetings, Zach. Tell me what the date is.
March 8th.
2023. So, quick follow-up to the video that I posted a couple of days ago. Oh, look who's coming in here. Man. Got a comment on my video here on YouTube from the guy that I was mailing the package with the Zim 21 figure, I think was the name of it, from the Star Team line. Was that silver robot body with the green alien head that I'd received by mistake. Now I took it Monday morning, bright and early, to the post office and stood there in line. I was the number 4th in line when they opened the doors at 8:30. There were already people there. And of course, the first guy in line wants to have a 5-minute conversation with not only the one lady that had the window open, but a second guy walked up there to answer his question. So they got 2 people helping this guy at the one window that was open. And I've got somewhere to be at 9 a.m., and this is 8:35 now. And I'm normally a very patient person. I'm not a difficult customer, but I called out because now there were at least 4 more people in line behind me. Now you've got 7 or 8 people waiting on this guy to stop having his little chit chat, with the employees of the post office. And I just went, "Hey, can we open another window?" And sure enough, the woman's like, "Can you step over there and y'all talk and I'll help these people behind you?" It's like, yes, get me out of here on time. So got a message on my YouTube video from the other buyer, and he did receive the package today. So he got it in time for the birthday party tomorrow. I was greatly relieved about that. So, and he also said, if I need any more Tusken Raider figures, he thinks he might have some extras. So I might get some of those. All right, so I'm going to set you down. Follow up to that. Follow up number 2. Remember the story about getting this magazine by mistake because a website said it was in Star Wars Galaxy Collector. It was actually in Star Wars Galaxy magazine. Well, I got this parcel in the mail today, and I went ahead and cut into it just enough to see if it was the right thing this time. And let's just haul that out of there. Go ahead and do it. So, here we go. This is the correct Star Wars Galaxy magazine from 1995. Let's just rip it. We're ripping it on camera. We're ripping the plastic. So, all right. Toy Secrets Revealed. And somewhere in here is this Steve Sansweet article. Oh, there's something about the radio dramas in here. Cool. Oh, it's the first. Episode of the radio drama by Brian Daly. Check that out. A Wind to Shake the Stars. That's pretty cool, man. All right. And you'll see why I'm saying that in just a second. So, all right. Here we go. Da-da-da-da. There he is, the Mongo Beefhead Tribesman that we talked about. So, Sansweet Tales of Phantom Toys article. So, here you've got the Tandem X-Wing, which was a 2-seater cockpit. You've got a character, Aetha Prime, who I believe I customized once upon a time by spray painting an Imperial Sentinel from Dark Empire white. And I haven't been able to find that since we moved into this house, and that's like, I don't know, 16 years ago or something like that, more than that maybe. And then you've got the Mongo Beefhead Tribesman, made from a squid head. You've got this really neat looking sand speeder. Made from a snow speeder and some micro collection Hoth turrets and things. And then there was a companion article to this that had like role-playing stats for some of this stuff. So even elsewhere in the magazine, you had a few more prototype toy photos, including those Imperial attack droids. Oh, the poster in here is making it hard for me to locate these things. But so, this is the correct magazine, and I'm very grateful to have received this. Oh, come on now. Boring, huh? Even he's yawning. So what have you done today?
Worked half the day.
Yeah, most of the day, so.
Yep.
What's your schedule tomorrow?
8 to 4.
Again with the 8 to 4. I go in at 9.
And Friday, too.
Here we go.
8 to
All right. So the New Republic SRV-1 is one of them. And the Imperial AP-3 attack droid. Now that one's going to be tricky to make. I've already made this one, which is, what are they calling him? All right, the poster is actually smack dab in the middle. The AP-2 attack droid. And now the AP-1 attack droid. So let's compare. There's the AP-1. And there's my reproduction of him, following the same recipe that they used. Here is, on the other side of the poster, attack droid B, following the same recipe. I like that one because there was no painting involved. It was just put the parts together and poof, you've got it. Unfortunately, what's not in here is the ATIC, which I wish was. And then this, the very first one that I did just weeks after this magazine hit shelves, was the Mongo Beefhead Tribesman. Of course, this photo is flipped negative image, so you can tell that the hands don't quite match up. So he actually would have been photographed like this and then mirror image printed. And I think maybe the Kenner catalog that had all these kit bash prototypes and everything in it was actually printed mirror image. So, if you're trying to find that article, don't buy this magazine. Unless you have a reason to want this magazine too, which I didn't know I did until I got it. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about very briefly. Recently on Facebook, I had somebody reach out to me and said, hey, saw your article on the Star Wars radio dramas in a Sequart book that I had written. It's, I forget which one because I was in a couple of them. But yeah, I had gone back to my old correspondence with Brian Daly from 28 years ago? Because I want to say it was 95. So we had been corresponding, first of all, from when I was living at my parents' house. Then my first wife and I got married, moved into an apartment, and then we bought a house. So all in that same time frame was my correspondence with Brian Daly. And what I didn't know at the time, is it past your bedtime? What I didn't know at the time is that he was battling pancreatic cancer. He never felt like he needed to mention that to me. So for me, Brian Daly was very much a mentor, literally in the sense of Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Brian Daly had been writing for a couple of years, closer to the end of his life, under a pen name. He and James Luceno, who is the guy that named a Star Wars planet after me, in Cloak of Deception, there's a planet called New Bornalex, which is Alex Newborn all scrambled around and everything. So Jim Luceno and Brian Daly wrote these Robotech adaptations, and then also the Black Hole Travel Agency under a combined pen name, and the pen name was Jack McKinney. Jack McKinney is a character from, I want to say Brian's first book, or maybe Jim's first book. I'd have to look at that. So there had been no new books coming out with the name Brian Daly on them in many years. And so when I wrote to him a fan letter, the reason I did it was when they collected the Star Wars radio dramas, the script books for the first two, not the third, he wrote a new foreword for it, and it gave his city and state as this address in Maryland. So I wrote him a fan letter at the publisher's address in that state, thinking, they'd get it to him faster. No, it took them several months to actually get the letter to him and everything. So he wrote me back, I want to say, around his birthday. It was just a couple days before Christmas. And I'm sorry, he did not write me back. He called me on the phone, and I was out. And I somewhere in my archives, I have the little post-it note that my mom took the message, and she was like, "Brian Daly? Question mark? Question mark?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you spelled it right." Called, got your letter. It's a wonderful letter. He will call you back, etc., etc. And so, and he said something at the time about the hubbub of the holidays, which is why I remember that it was around Christmas and New Year's and everything. But he called the next morning, and I actually have a video of my half of the conversation. I don't have his half. So that and I remember at the very end, he was like, I said, "Well, thank you for your call, Mr. Daly." And he goes, "Oh, please call me Brian." And so at some point in that conversation with him, I said, I didn't realize until I read that you were still alive. I thought you must have died. And he said, "Oh, I'm not dead, not yet." Which is exactly the exchange that Luke and Obi-Wan had. It's like, "Oh, my uncle said he was dead." And he's like, "Oh, he's not dead, not yet." So I feel like he was deliberately quoting that. And then we never met in person. We spoke on the phone. We communicated by mail, and then even after I interviewed him for Martin Thurne's Star Wars Collector fanzine, he still would, contact me. "Hey, I saw this article. It made me think of you." He'd stick stuff in a package and mail it to me. Called me on the phone one time when my first wife and I were living at the apartment, and she's talking to somebody. I thought, "Yeah, I'm enjoying. Yeah, it's fun, being newlyweds, whatever the conversation is." And I'm thinking, "Oh, it's somebody on the phone." And then she finally goes, "It's Brian Daly for you." And she's like, "I just felt like he was like your uncle or somebody," and that was kind of the avuncular sort of way that he took me under his wing, encouraged me to write, encouraged me to do different things, just in this short time. And nowhere in any of that did he feel it important to say, "By the way, I'm battling pancreatic cancer." It wasn't important enough to him in that correspondence. And we talked about so many aspects of his Star Wars career and different writings and things, but it was kind of jumping all over the map. And when I wrote the Sequart article, I went back to all that original correspondence with him, and I said, "Okay, what's something different I can do with this? Because I don't want to just reprint what was in Star Wars Collector all those years ago." And I decided to do it from the timeline of how he experienced it. And everything you write has got to have a structure. You've got to have something, some sort of plan you got to have a skeleton to kind of hang the meat on. And I thought I knew that material backward and forward. I really did. And what happened was when I decided to do it in linear order, in chronological order, all of a sudden, comments that he would make about this one and what happened on that one, there'd be a comment about this one that maybe we'd had that conversation first, and now this one was, but we had jumped all over the map in our chats. And now I was like, "Oh, I see where that's building about the confidence that Lucasfilm was gaining in him, and that led to this project." I mean, I understood it so much better when I put it into the final form. And it's, anything you think you know well, deconstruct it, turn it on its head someday, look at it different. You might come up with better things. So this sort of, it is leading somewhere, I promise. It's a lot of information there when I get talking about Brian Daly. And then, all too briefly, I got word that he'd passed away of pancreatic cancer. I think it was Martin that told me. And I think 8 months after we'd begun our correspondence, he was gone, And so it was that, Luke meets Obi-Wan, has barely met him, and yet he's so moved by the loss of a mentor that Princess Leia, who just lost her planet's like comforting Luke. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that the man you barely knew, whose name you weren't even getting right up until a couple of days ago, has died now." So I got contact.
Died.
Yeah, my entire planet, my parents, everybody's gone. But yeah, let's comfort you and your karate instructor. On Facebook, I was contacted by a John Tenuto, and he said, "Hey, I enjoyed your article in the Sequart book. Are you by chance going to a celebration this year?" And I was like, "Honestly, I haven't given any plans to doing anything like that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have." And days go by, no follow-up whatsoever. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, that didn't go anywhere." Until today. And he messages me, says, "Hi, hope all is good. My wife and I have written a book about the making of the Star Wars radio dramas for Nacelle Books, which will be published this July. Keep an eye out for that. I'm definitely going to. We have the cooperation of Brian Daly's family and interviewed most of the actors and behind-the-scenes artists who worked on it, on the radio dramas. That's pretty cool. We hope fellow fans enjoy it. We are writing for 2 reasons. I'm going to tell you the second one first. Second, we wanted to check with you. We quoted about 6 sentences of your interview with Brian, all Brian's responses in the book. While his answers are available in his archives and his original typewritten document, we want to check with you as a courtesy since it was such a great interview and a wonderful resource. Of course, we credit you. Thanks for that interview long ago. Absolutely. Brian gave me one-time American magazine publishing rights to the article itself, the interview itself in Star Wars Collector Fanzine. And then I've mined our personal correspondence for the article that I wrote for Sequart, just the stuff about his career, none of the really personal stuff that we discussed and things. So yeah, I've already sort of turned that over to the universe and the fans and let them have all that stuff. It's online. You can find it in old posting. So yeah, that was perfectly fine by me that it was quoted. But the first thing he said, the first reason for contacting me, we are sending along scans of some of the items from Brian's records. We don't know if you have copies of this, but thought you would appreciate seeing them again. And there were 2 scans attached. And I typed on the first one, and I just put my hand to my chest because 28-ish years melted by. Oh my God. I just noticed this, son. Orion, come here for a sec. Scoot over just a little bit. Wow. Mind-blowing. Orion, come here. No, you don't need a Star Wars shirt. Come on. Just have a seat. Be careful of that stuff. This is Orion. Orion, tell them what your middle name is, or your third name. Daly. This is Orion Daly. So named because he was born on Brian Daly's birthday. 47 years apart or so, but still. Check the date on that letter in the upper right corner.
1995. What?
What's the month and the...
My birthday?
Your birthday, 1995.
Before I was even born.
I did not spot that earlier today. Yeah, that's your birthday, and you weren't born until 2002, and you were born on Brian's birthday in 98. Wow. Oh my God. Thank you so much, John Tenuto, for sending me these scans. That is amazing. But it's the first and second pages of one of the letters that I typed to Brian from the apartment there that my first wife and I lived in. So and it starts off, "Forgive my use of all caps. I've read that on the net it's the written equivalent of constantly shouting, but my typing skills are limited to index, finger, hunt, and peck, and this particular arrangement on this machine shaves me some precious time." So I was 2 index finger typing on not a computer, not a phone, on a typewriter to send him this. So this is a scan of my half of the conversation that's been in Brian's archives since 1995. So I got misty looking at this earlier, and I probably would have missed it up just now. But it just blew my mind that this was Zach's birthday of 95. So, wow. So you've always had a connection to Brian Daly that we knew about. And now we found one for you that we wouldn't have found if it weren't thanks to John Tenuto. So on behalf of my sons, thank you for restoring that to me. I have not seen that since 95 when I stuck it in the mail and mailed it to Maryland to Brian. So thank you so much. Clear skies.
And may the force be with you.